Sunday, July 21st, 2024, President of the United States of America, President Joe Biden, in a press release, stepped down from his re-election bid. In the best interest of his party and America, he stood down to focus solely on fulfilling his duties as president for the remainder of his term.
So I've decided the best way forward is to pass the torch to a new generation. It's the best way to unite our nation. You know, there is a time and a place for long years of experience in public life. There's also a time and a place for new voices, fresh voices, yes, younger voices. And that time and place is now. Over the next 6 months, I'll be focused on doing my job as president.
In his stead, President Biden endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris to run for the President of the United States of America. Vice President Kamala Harris, if she becomes the party's official nominee, will become the first woman of color to be a major party presidential nominee. She has had a career with many firsts. She became the country's first Indian American senator when she was inaugurated in 2017. She is California's first female and South Asian Attorney General. In 2021, she became the first woman to become vice president, in addition to be the first Black or Asian American person in the position. Kamala Harris hit the ground running with her first campaign in Wisconsin, where she addressed a crowd of supporters.
And it is my great honor to have Joe Biden's endorsement in this race. We have earned the support of enough delegates to secure the Democratic nomination. I am so very honored, and I pledge to you I will spend the coming weeks continuing to unite our party so that we are ready to win in November. We will win this election. And in this campaign, I promise you, I will proudly put my record against his any day of the week. This campaign is about who we fight for. This is about who we fight for. On the other hand, we are running a people-powered campaign. And because we are a people-powered campaign, that is how you know we will be a people-first presidency. We are not going back. Not going back. We're not going back. We are not going back. And I'll tell you why we're not going back. Because ours is a fight for the future. We who believe in the sacred freedom to vote will make sure every American has the ability to cast their ballot and have it counted.
Global Light seeks to find out more from political analysts. In an interview with Ambassador Adetunji Anthony Adeleke, past president of Nigerians in Diaspora, Indianapolis, Indiana, USA, Global Light seeks to find out his view.
I think there are certain times in life that you shouldn't be thinking about yourself, but in the interest of the wider goal and that of the society. I think he's setting a great example for other leaders to see that being in a position of power is not a personal thing. And at any point in time, if you feel the burden is becoming enormous, or for one reason or the other, you are unable to take the mantle, you should be able to pass the baton. There is what we call a succession plan. Everybody must as a leader, have a succession plan. But he's doing that not at the end of his tenure. He's doing that at a time within his tenure when circumstances about his health are of concern for himself, for the nation, and his party. So it makes a lot of sense to have a leader that can own up to the situation at hand and know when to call it. He made a call which most of his party people will regard as a good call, and even those not in his party that are looking towards better leadership from a strong and elder person of a good age will all consider that makes the most sense, and it's a good example for all of us. To me, I think I really applaud that decision personally.
And what does this portend for the United States of America's democracy?
To me, there is what we call a tale of two cities for those that study classics. It's the best of times, it's the worst of times, as they say. I believe that it portends a good and possible and exciting and competitive race between the two major parties as we go forward into the elections. There are concerns that with the state of President Biden's health, for him to continue to go on and flag the party's lead candidacy, it's at the detriment of that party. That is like you are not putting your best foot forward at this time. And you know, age, health, and some other reasons may not always be. It's always good to be able to give others opportunity. So for the current circumstances, I believe is giving the younger people opportunity to step into the leadership of the nation in the president of Mrs. Kamala Harris, Vice President, and is also setting a stage that the election will be more competitive between the parties involved, both the Republican and the Democratic Party, because he's already lacking behind a bit in the polls. But more importantly, for the nation, because as Americans, what matters to us first is the patriotism. And also, anywhere in the world that where they are looking towards America as a beacon of democracy, they will see it as an example of what it means to be more patriotic and to be more about the interest of the nation rather than individual ambitions. So it pertains a good competitive elections coming up in November.
Do we see gender as a major challenge here?
When elections are involved, there are several demographic factors that people consider. They will look at the religion, they will look at the gender, they will look at the age group. So there are several demographics in place. And I feel over the years, for us never to have had a woman that will be able to contest and win means something about the nature of our society. And sometimes it's also about giving the opportunity. How many women have they given opportunity to even become a major party's candidate? So at this time, it's good to actually be bold and do the right thing. So if this will be the situation that will bring about opportunity for gender representation in a stage of leadership that we regard as the highest in the nation and also in the world.
Dr. Kazim Bello, a Nigerian based in New Jersey, USA, examines Kamala Harris' chances of winning.
What are the chances of Kamala Harris in the November election? Well, we also should have the question, or interrogate the question also equally, that what are the chances of Donald Trump in this election? Because it is not a slam dunk. It's going to be a hotly contested election. There's no doubt about it. No matter who is picking up the presumptive nominee for the Democratic Party, we need to wait first to see Kamala emerge as the presumptive candidate for Democratic Party. We don't know. The convention is down the line in August, and anything can still happen. It's a long period of time between now and the convention to change the dynamics, even though we know that most Democrats are rallying around her to secure her the nomination. Anyway, we have to understand that the dynamics have changed tremendously with the pulling out of the president, and Ms. Kamala is not new to the game. She ran in the last election in the primaries, and she did give the current president a good debate during that primaries, and I guess her performance in those debates was what tilted in her favor for the number one pick for vice president, and Biden listened to the opinion of the Democratic caucus and picked her as vice president. And between then and now, she had gained tremendous experience in various areas, both international and domestic affairs. So we have to give her that credit for running a very good vice president office for the 3.5 years. Now, regarding her chances, yeah, she had a good chance of winning if she emerged as a candidate for Democrat. Nobody should rule her out. She can start her own at any time, and she's very formidable. She definitely can lead the United States. She's not going to do the job by herself alone. I mean, she understands what it takes to be the chief executive. That's very important. So if she understands that, then she will understand how to lead as a president, and she has been doing that very well as a vice president.
What other challenges do we foresee as the election draws nearer?
Elections are a bit intriguing. I think it's a weakness of democracy that we have taken our democracy sometimes into situations where we start throwing stones at each other, digging up debts on one another, and it happens for all the parties, not just in America, all around the world. Everybody is thinking about winning, and winning at all costs makes people cast wrong shadows on the other, make people speak out things that are not really facts, and makes people dig up debts on one another rather than the capacity of people to represent the people very well.
There will be a lot of challenges along the line leading to the election itself, and believe me, again, I don't know why we are focusing on Kamala Harris. Let's calm down. She's going to win the election if the Democrats play their game very well and do the right thing, especially if the Democrats can sustain the black and Latino vote, majority of whom constituted the undecided and the independent people. Most of the black people don't actually even carry voters card, to talk less of voting. So the Democrat Party will need to mobilize a lot of them and also persuade them to come out on the election day to vote, or vote early, so that that will count a lot. So those are things, the strategy the Democrats can do. They have to retain that Latino and the black vote. Anytime Latino and the black vote tilts their vote towards come out to vote massively, the Democrats emerges, because these are people that live in the cosmopolitan cities, and they have a large population in the cosmopolitan cities, and then you've got to have a strategy to draw them out to come and vote. If they stay, what happened during Clinton election was that they didn't come out to vote. Despite the fact that Clinton had a majority, she could not secure the electoral college vote to win the election, and that was because in major precincts where the black and Latino votes are populated, they did not come out to vote, and where it was corrected during Biden, and that was why Biden easily won that election. So the Democrat will have to stay on that strategy to make sure that happens in this new election. The challenges that faces Kamala equally faces Mr. Trump. So both of them, we have challenges as we move towards the election, but they will figure out how to manage it and get through the election, and so that they both can win. But again, it's right now it's still a 50-50 chance. Nobody knows precisely. It's whatever we found out, that trend towards the election is going to determine who carries the day.
Bringing it home to Nigeria, what lessons can we learn from the process of the emergence of Kamala Harris as a presidential candidate and nominee of her party? Clearly, we see four major factors playing out here: ageism, mental acuity of political office holders, Gender in Politics and Politics of Content. Honorable Collins Nweke, as a global affairs analyst, how would you address each of these factors?
The issue of age and ageism has played out in the US politics, just like, it dominates conversation, not just in Nigeria, but in the rest of Africa. Now, should age matter? Certainly not. What should matter is the mental fitness, but also the physical fitness of the individual seeking political office. Because in more ways than one, age could actually be, an interesting factor for one who is seeking office. We saw that in President Biden's, first term, the campaign to be president. We saw the experience that he brought to the table over 45, nearly 50 years of public service, and how much it informed the quality of his campaign, and then also his presidency. And he did something smart, getting a much younger person to be his running mate. But of course, in Nigeria, when people talk about age as being an issue, they talk about it within the context of the older generation, making way for the younger generation. That too is a very important argument. And so one will expect that even when, the tired old men in Nigeria, when they, have that ambition of continuing to seek office, that they will also consider, in the interest of, national politics, that the younger ones are given an opportunity as well. So while not, dismissing age as, an important determinant factor, I would say that yes, there is also the argument, there is also, merit in the argument that young people should be given opportunity by the older generation. I mean, to that extent, yes, age might be an issue, but not the age itself. I think it's more of how fit one is. Gender in politics is as old as politics itself. And, in all fairness, this is not something that is happening only in Nigeria. I mean, let us remind ourselves that up until today, in its hundreds of years of democracy, America has never elected a female president. And even now, in 2024, there are questions being asked, and very openly, about the preparedness of America to elect a woman as a president. And so, women continue to be relegated to the background, particularly in politics. A few nations of the world have, taken some bold legislative steps to counter that. Here in Belgium, where I am, for instance, one of the ways that, they have tried to close up the gap and, take care of the, gender imbalance in politics is by making it mandatory for every political party to have the first person on the list, either a man, to be a man, the first candidate to be a man or a woman, and the second person, as a matter of fact, two persons cannot be the same gender. The two top candidates cannot be the same gender. If it's either a male in the number one position or a female, and the second one, the other gender. So that way, we saw an, upsurge in the, position of women in politics here in Belgium. Now, does it mean that every gender-related issues in politics is sorted out by that means? No, but at least, it is contributing, favorably to more women being in politics. Now, there's still work to do, but Nigeria perhaps might consider that rather than just, this arbitral, step of saying, okay, we are going to establish a quota, and that quota is not even mandatory. Goodluck Jonathan tried it in his time, and then Buhari came, he just didn't care. And, we've seen some presidents that actually took steps. Obasanjo, for instance, made sure that more women and young people were, in his cabinet. I think that's a way to go. And ultimately, legislating on it isn't a bad idea, and I think it's something Nigeria should consider. In the case of Kamala Harris, she's dealing with the double jeopardy of being both a female, but also an African, Asian American. So, which means that, on all of those fronts, she's facing a bit of challenge. But it could well be that, going by the example of Hillary Clinton, who was there before her, that Americans have outgrown the prejudice around gender and will really not give a who so much about her gender as a woman. Neither would they bother so much about her being, African, Asian America. But it remains to be seen. Politics of content, that's where actually purposeful politics begins from. Well, one can always argue that in Africa, there is hardly any political party there, that goes into political battle without manifestos. Yes, it's pretty easy to put together. I mean, we have thousands of doctorate theses, that have to do with, politics, political strategies, and all of that. So it's very easy for, political operatives, political actors, working for their masters to put together whatever suits them as a manifesto. What happens is, how do you sell this to the people? Those are not the sort of things that happen in Nigeria, where people focus on exactly what they want to do. I mean, not you can spare the electorate the minute details, because that could also be boring. But you need to be deep in policy. Make a very clear outline. But you see, they are more concerned in Africa with other ephemeral, cosmetic matters about, who merits to be in, what position, what part of the country in terms of ethnicity do you come from, who was the president before you, where does the person come from, and, so on and so forth. Those are, matters that should be, behind us. But let's not paint Nigeria as if it's the only country in the world where politics of content could be lacking. I mean, if you look at Donald Trump, the election that he won in 2016, even up till now, he's a one-liner kind of guy. He says one thing, he keeps repeating it. So you don't even find, that sort of content that is purposeful.